That's fine. It's hey everyone, we should be live now, I think. Yep. George is going to get a coffee. His coffee. We are just setting up. Sorry for being a few minutes late. George has fancy camera that didn't fancy work.
Yeah, tried something a bit too fancy with trying to go completely wireless with wireless headphones and a wireless mic, and it just decided it did not want to do that. So
if anybody has any issues with the audio, with leveling, do let us know. I now know how to change it on our end. But yeah, it's, I don't know about you, but I might melt during this live stream. It's been very, very warm in the UK today. You may or may not be able to hear the 12-inch fan I have rightly here, and you see it's flicking up my hair or whatever quality is on the video. George is turning on or off his aircon.
Yeah. Well, hey, to be fair, it is 42°C outside, and there is currently a wildfire not too far away from my house. So
if George's stream turns red and he has to leave,
yeah, unlikely, but
we'll see. It's I am getting the background. Let's see if I can adjust your microphone. No, leave it on.
Okay.
Does that do anything? I'm trying to turn down auto noise removal.
So while Ian's trying to deal with the audio fuck up that I am, I have a dad joke that I heard on a YouTube stream, which is Neon walks into a bar. The bartender goes, "We don't serve noble gases." Neon doesn't react.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all right. We haven't started the main show yet. Thank you all for coming, and for those who are here last week for our live stream. Just getting set up and having a go of it, making sure everybody can filter in who wants to watch. I know we never give any concrete 24 hours notice before we do these things. That's partly because we don't know where we are at any given day in the world.
Well, more specifically, you don't really know where you are at any given day in the world.
It's yeah.
The crowd did not appreciate my joke, apparently. Sad.
I've set the stream to normal latency, so there's probably about a 30-second delay or so. Just so YouTube gets all the bits, and we all know how flaky this internet can be. I'll just add in this here, just because it's kind of relevant. Skunkworks asks, do you plan to do any follow up with Jim Keller? It looks like I may have a date sorted for that. I will be in town in San Francisco at the end of August for Hot Chips. I think we kind of said that in the last show, and I'll be interviewing a wide array of people in the Bay Area the week before Hot Chips, of which Jim Keller is one. They recently just announced their Quiet Box dev kit. It looks like I'll get a chance to play with that. And so we'll be filming most, all of it. Recently, E! Times interviewed Jim Keller, Sally Ward-Foxon over there. And I think the problem I heard was I didn't need to ask him any questions. He just started talking for 2 hours. Because he does that sort of thing.
Yeah. I wasn't in the room long with him that one time. But yeah,
when I interviewed him,
very much gives that vibe of ask a question and you'll have an answer, and then it continues for the next 20 minutes.
Yeah. It's we've got that planned. I hope to interview a few yeah, a few other CEOs in the area, a few people of interest. Hopefully, also Victor Peng from AMD. He's just announced his retirement, so it's I'm trying to wing it. But for this episode, we have two main topics, and I guess maybe a couple of minor ones depending on how we go. But we're doing this on August the 1st, and today is Intel's Financials Day, and the financial call is at 5 p.m. Eastern, so we'll likely still be streaming then. So as the financials come in, the idea is that hopefully we'll have a chance to go through them, and then I'll do my standard write-up afterwards tonight or whatever. It's like 9 p.m. now in the UK, just because, financial
time zones. Ooh.
Yeah. But the main topic of the day will be Ampere One. So Ampere Computing, I've got a interview with the CEO from late last year on my channel. I think that eventually went up January, February. And they have finally given us a deep dive into their custom ARM microarchitecture for the data center. And we were briefed on this earlier this week. The embargo went out yesterday. And so, George, has your article gone up on it yet?
No, I haven't.
You're still.
I made the diagram, but I haven't started writing the article. Honestly, I've been.
Yeah, they gave us 24 hours to do any write-up or filming. I was in the middle of filming the second season of the AI Hardware Show this week. So I think we've got 9 episodes of that now recorded, or 8.5. I screwed up one. I need to redo part of it. Because there's going to be a couple of episodes this year in that web series where it's either all me or all Sally, just because of our areas of expertise. But we've got a lot of those filmed, so now we can go ahead and video edit. We're hoping to get that started in September. But as a result, never had enough time to sort out anything on Ampere. But that's essentially what this video is. We're going to go through the full slide deck. I think there's 38 slides.
30. I think like five or like, yeah, 5 of those is like endnotes. So.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll go through the press deck as we were shown it. So, we'll talk about that at length. It's just coming up to 4 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes financial results come out
an hour early.
Yeah. So I'm constantly mashing refresh on one of my monitors just to make sure. Actually,
yeah.
I should have a plugin. Oh, I'm hearing myself. That might be because one of my windows. It's got us open. 1 second.
Photos. What do you think? What do you guys think of all the AI marketing that's slapped on everything right now? It's the hype cycle for a lot of it. A lot of it is just the hype cycle. In my opinion, it's like
that graph up. Yeah. Down and then level.
Like
the question is, are we still going up?
Being labeled Ryzen AI is questionable.
Strix point.
Yeah, Strix point. the
largest collection of AI PCs.
Actually, wait, hold on. I have another AI PC. Where's my?
Me too.
Where's
Where's my other one?
Well, I have Phoenix, which is technically AI.
Yeah, I've got Meteor Lake. That's technically AI.
Yeah.
So between us, we have 6 AI PCs. Oh, it's yeah. So the way this show is going to go, I'll go live officially in a second. We'll do some initial news that's been cropped up this week. Only one or two items. We'll go straight into the Ampere One. I think this is a problem when you've got financial results coming out.
Yeah.
You don't know exactly when they're going to drop. Actually,
I'm not seeing them yet, so
no. I used to have an extension that would auto refresh my page, and I think it's no longer supported, which is a bummer. Anyway, yeah, it's so if anyone is keeping track of that, fixed function has Centaur. Me too. It's in here somewhere. Oh, it's in a box under my desk. Yeah, or it's over there with the sci-fi stuff. Yeah, so actually, I'll just check my email. Sometimes something comes through my email before the financials go. No. Oh, I have got an invite to a company's. They call it the Industry Analyst Day, so it's called the IA Day, not the AI Day.
The Analyst of Industries Day.
Oh, don't give them ideas, please. Please don't give them ideas. Intel is live, apparently.
I'm not seeing it here.
No, it's still saying Q1 24 to me, Sebastian. The minute the website says Q2, I mean, it says Q2 earnings conference call, but that's just the link to log into the. Oh no, it has gone up. Sorry.
Oh, it has.
Yeah. Let's
do that first.
Let me officially start the start the show then. Welcome everyone to episode 2 of the Tech Poutine. You are here with Potato and Cheese. I'm Potato. This is Cheese. I'm Ian Cutress from More Than More, also the YouTube channel you're probably watching this on, Tech Potato. This is George Cozma from Chips and Cheese, chipsandcheese.com, with the deep analytical stuff in microarchitecture. But because this is breaking news today, we're going to go straight into the financials. We are reacting to this live, if I can get the right window.
It still hasn't pulled up for me, so I'm having to watch your.
No, so if you go to intc.com, it's in latest news here on the left. It hasn't filtered down to the latest financial results. So this is on the back of. Let's see if I can get that up. Annoying. Can I delete this part of the window? Yeah, let's delete element. Let's delete element. Let's delete element. There we go. Let's go for that so we can see it all better, kind of. Right, so financial results. Q2 for Intel announces $10 billion cost reduction plan to increase efficiency and market competitiveness. They already have announced a $10 billion plan to reduce it, though it looks like this may be a bit more than that. Can we get rid of that banner? No, because it disappears because it's size-based. Yeah, okay. Let's just go with this. So second quarter revenue, 12.8 billion, down 1% year over year. Okay. Q2 is usually a bit higher than Q1. Q1's usually the nadir. Second quarter GAAP, that's the generally accepted accounting practice. That's without any sort of one-offs and stuff. Earnings, so their earnings per share was negative 38 cents. So your ROI for your shares is negative. But they say the non-GAAP, so that's actually what happened, is actually 2 cents positive because they've got to stay positive. Forecasting third quarter revenue, 12.5 to 13.5 billion. So So basically 13, which is slightly above Q2. You expect Q3 to be well above Q2. And yeah, third quarter GAAP EPS of negative 24 to negative 3 cents.
So the market's reaction to this is Intel's down 5.5%.
Okay. This is the big one. This is the one that I kind of wanted to bring up if we were going to do some intro news. But implementing comprehensive reduction in spending, including more than a 15% headcount reduction to resize and refocus. Yeah, it's Bloomberg got wind of this early and said 10K. But I want to bring up this graph if I can find it. And if I can share this screen. How do I? Yeah. I have to stop sharing to then share a different screen. This one. So this is a number I track. So if Intel are losing 15,000 employees, they're going down from 131 to 116. So just as actually, I'll get rid of this banner because it's hiding the date. So Intel last had Q3 2020. So that's pandemic. Or at the start of the pandemic, they had 111K. They hired 20,000 people in what, a year and a half? Fired 10K, hired 10K. Now they're hiring 15K. The reason why they're above AMD and NVIDIA here is that Intel has fabs. Though our fabs essentially 100,000 people. I think TSMC is at 80K or something similar around there. So, it's a bit crap that people are losing jobs. Intel are doing it clearly because they need to save money. Let's go to the rest of the financials. Nobody's reached out to you to say they've lost their job yet, have they?
No,
George.
No,
yeah.
But yeah. I hope nobody I know loses their shirts. That always is. That's
usually the first to be cut is PR, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
So spending dividend starting in the fourth quarter suspended. So that dividend is the money that shareholders get. This company reiterates its long-term commitment to be a competitive dividend as cash flows improve. So basically, they're saying we can't afford our shareholders' support right now. It's a function of Intel spending, spend, in order to reinvigorate themselves as a major player in the industry again. Next point, achieved key milestones on Intel 18A with the 1.0 PDK released and key power on a first client and server products on 18A. Panther Lake and Clearwater Forest. Okay, so they're spun out. They spun out the A0 silicon, essentially, for Panther Lake and Clearwater Forest. So that's the Xeon 7 E-core, we think.
Yes.
And Panther Lake is next year's client after Arrow.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So these are 2025 products, definitely. Actually, let's see if I can increase the thing here so everybody can read. I'm missing all the comments, but we'll see. Our Q2 financial performance was disappointing, even as we hit key products and process technology milestones. Unfortunately, hitting a milestone doesn't automatically generate revenue. You need to give it a quarter of product in the market to see it. Second half trends are more challenging than were previously expected, so that's the second half of the year. And we are leveraging our new operating model to take decisive actions that will improve operating and capital efficiencies while accelerating our IDM 2.0 transformation. So spend less on operations, but spend in order to be capital efficient but spend more to accelerate transformation. That's a road that runs out of capital quickly if you don't have something to back it up, right? It's at some point the revenue stream has to come back up. Question is, at what angle? So we'll see. They really are betting the boat on 18A. That's what Pat said in my interview with him. And these actions combined with the launch of Intel 18A next year to regain process technology leadership will strengthen our position in the market, improve our profitability, and create shareholder value. This is a financial call, so profitability and shareholder value are perhaps the only things that matter here.
As sad as that is.
Yeah. Second quarter results were impacted by gross margin headwinds. So that's essentially a deceleration because it's a headwind from the accelerated ramp of our AI PC product. So that's Gaudi 3. Higher than typical charges.
AI PC should be like Lunar Lake, Meteor Lake.
Oh, yeah. Stuff. Sorry. Yes, you are right. My fault. PC product. Yeah. So this is, we kind of said this when Lunar Lake came, the tech day came out. It feels like Lunar Lake was brought in a quarter or two. It should have been a CES next year product, but they're bringing it in early. Higher than typical charges related to the non-core businesses and the impact from unused capacity. So they're building out fabs, but they can't fill the ones they have now, which is a losing strategy, unfortunately. I think there were reports of some of the investments they had planned to make in Europe have been cancelled. Did you see that?
Yeah, I believe it was Italy and
France,
yeah.
Or France. Yeah, it's so France was meant to be an R&D center. Italy was meant to be like a packaging something or other, if I remember correctly.
Ian, if you want the pretty presentation, that's now up.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to that. I need to refresh Q2 earnings presentation. So they don't actually go through this during the presentation, through the call. Let's zoom in again. Okay, so if you didn't know, this is Pat Gelsinger, the CEO. David Zisner, the CFO. I think did he come from VMware?
David Zisner?
Yeah, or Micron, one of the two, I think. Anyway, yeah. So standard boilerplate legal stuff. Headlines. So this is the headline stuff. Q2 revenue in line. We saw that with the 1%. Micron. Okay, yeah. Q2 revenue in line. We saw that with the 1%, but profitability below expectations. Suppressed gross margin. They said that. $10 billion cost reduction plan. Sustainable operational and capital efficiencies. 5 nodes in 4 years. So that's 7, 4, 3, 20A, 18A nearing completion. Nearing completion because Intel 18A finally has the full process development kit. Lead client and data center products powered on. We covered that with Panther Lake and Clearwater Forest. And then driving the AI PC, 15 million units of Core Ultra shipped to date. That includes all of Meteor Lake and the start of Lunar. This picture here is obviously of Lunar Lake. And then Lunar Lake production release ahead of schedule. We said, yeah, it's been brought up a bit. So this slide is the $10 billion cost reduction plan. So this is R&D and mergers and acquisitions, essentially. In 2024, Intel, it was, the prior estimate was this high, so above 20 billion, and Intel is guiding to 20 billion. However, next year they're only guiding 17.5. So yeah, responding to market conditions and driving efficiencies by a new model, sustaining investment needed to fund and execute our strategy, basically not spending more than we have to. which is important. It's a shame, George, you didn't get to see the Malaysia or the Israel fab tours in the last couple of years, tech tours.
Yeah.
Because it really gives you a sense of how big
big.
these things are.
So I actually did have the pleasure with a few other folks to go down to Arizona. I wasn't able to go into the fab, but I was able to see the fab from the outside.
Oh,
so
nice.
They are, to put it, massive is an understatement of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. And here we see the capital spending gross versus net. So, yeah, they're aligning capital expansion with demand signals consistent with smart capital. So this is also partly leveraging investments. None of this includes any of the CHIPS Act, by the way. That's because CHIPS Act money is essentially tax breaks on buying stuff for the most part, or loans. So yeah, 5 nodes, 4 years, finish line in sight. Is that off center? That's weird. We have technology 18A, 15% performance support increase versus Intel 3 at a 1.3x chip density increase because we're going to gate all around transistors. Advanced packaging, 2.5D to EMIB to Foveros Direct. We've both got articles and videos covering all those technologies. Intel products, Clearwater Forest, looks like 12 dies with 2 I/O dies. George?
Yeah,
this is a mock-up, so...
Yeah, so from what I know, it's essentially 17 chiplets. So 2 I/O chiplets, 3 base tiles, and then 12 core chiplets on top.
I called it. I have a video where I said they should be doing, or I said AMD at the time, but they should be putting their core complexes on an interposer for Genoa or Turin. So this sounds like that. You have an interposer, and you just have, yeah, okay, that sounds like. Yeah. Called it.
I think that was your butter, like the video where you, I think that was like a 2021 video where you talked about like butter donut.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah, called it. I told you it should happen, and it is.
To be fair, in that regard, I think they're the first CPU, like all CPU, to do that. They aren't the first product to do that.
Yeah, you can say MI300Xs, I guess, to a certain extent.
MI300A, but yeah.
Yeah. Panther Lake, so again, this is the Lunar Lake next one, it looks like. PDK, we've covered 18A PDK, and then, with all the major EDA vendors. That's pretty cool. AI PC, again, this is just all the preamble before getting into the numbers. But Lunar Lake delivers up to 50% graphics performance because it's using XE2, which is the Battle Mage architecture, 40% lower power, and 3 times the AI tops coming. I think they said holiday season, kind of. Okay, numbers. Revenue in line with the outlook. Gross margin, so 38.7%, which is down. Almost 5 points below the April outlook. Oh, dear.
That's, and the EPS missing by 8
cents. This is also non-GAAP, so GAAP, I assume GAAP will be lower.
Yeah, GAAP is even worse.
Yeah. So here's how revenue has gone over the last few quarters. If I get time, I'll drum up my slides to show this because I've got some nice, pretty graphs. Initiating significant cost reductions, AI PC ramp faster than expected. So that should actually drive some revenue simply through volume. Momentum to 40 million units shipped in 24. So that's between Meteor and Luna, essentially.
If they're ramping faster than expected, now this is some tinfoil hat stuff. I cannot confirm. They don't say it here, but are they heavily like, are they ramping Meteor like too fast?
So to date, they said 15 million shipped, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's in the first 2 quarters. So they've got to do 25 million in the second 2, at least. I think what's also important here is operating income is 0. But we'll get to those numbers in a second, I assume. Oh, every quarter they change the graphs, but we'll see. So let's go through each of the departments. CCG, so Client Computing Group. This is their desktop and notebook stuff. AI PCs, 40 million. Loon Lake, 60% battery life. Revenue is flat. Margin is down. This is operating margin, not gross margin. But operating income is also flat. So it's down for Q2, and Q2 you expect to at least be a little bit up. You expect Q1 to be the bottom of the market. But DCAI, so this is Xeon, this is Gaudi. This is again flat, 3 billion, but only 9.1% margin. So this is because they're ramping Xeon 6. I suspect some of that margin will be because of ramping Xeon 6, and then Grand Rapids at Gaudi 3. Next, this is the network group. Networking, again, flat, just depressed gross margins and, a low operating income. Foundry. So last quarter, 2 quarters ago, I think it was last quarter, Intel decided to separate the P&L for the Foundry business, which meant that the product's margins went up because they were no longer putting in the Foundry numbers into their products, but the Foundry was low, and that's why we have negative 65% operating margin. So they've got $4.3 billion in revenue from Foundry. That's the revenue that's been generated from selling wafers to the product teams. But they've still lost 2.8 billion in operating income due to rollout and build out, because that's all being funneled under Foundry. That's why these margins are so low. Intel has said that they want to basically bring those margins up to around 0 by 2026, 2027, and then positive, double digits by the end of the decade. So, okay. We finally have the first quarter with Altera broken out. Yay, PSG. Everybody likes FPGAs, right?
Yeah.
Or is it just me?
No, FPGAs are cool, but unfortunately, the market for FPGAs, as
right
we saw
now,
in the AMD results as well, is very depressed.
The embedded market has a problem right now. So during the pandemic, people who wanted 10 ordered 50 to get 5. When the other 45 showed up, they had too many. So they just kept hold of stock, which meant that they didn't order anymore. So they digest their inventory. That's what it means when they say digesting inventory. So this is it's happening with AMD, with the embedded division. It's happening with Lattice. Lattice had a really down quarter as well. And so we're seeing it with Altera now. Agilex 3 launching in mid-25. I thought Agilex 3 was already out. I thought they announced it. New CEO of Altera, Sandra Rivera, she's been told by multiple people, we don't hear anything from you. So please tell us about what's going on. And she's like, yeah, we'll sort that out. So hopefully,
So that could be a new line of Agile 3 coming out, because they have like P and I and M and a whole bunch of different letters.
So it's funny. One of the episodes for the AI Hardware Show I just recorded was the one with Agilex inside. So there is FIM. F is the catch-all. I is the the compute, and M is the memory and compute. So that's mostly an Agilex 7 thing, though, which is really weird. But yeah, either way, it's also important to note that the line for operating margin being 0 is about here, because these are negative. So yeah, imagine if that wasn't 4 million and was actually 4. We had an operating income of $4 this quarter. And then yeah, Mobileye, IQ6 is starting to come online, with customers. They had a pretty bad quarter last quarter, so it's gone back up. Year on year looks a little depressed, and again, those margins are a lot lower than before. So
and this is, I think, why the stock is down so much, is that gross margin right there for the outlook.
Yeah,
I'm not an economist person by any means, but that I know is really bad.
Yeah, 38% down. Yeah, it's down 8% year. Yeah, 7.8% down year on year. And then we have some of these extra numbers. M&A.
Actually, if you go back up to the M&A and R&D stuff.
Yep.
This worries me. When a company starts pulling back on their R&D, I know that this is R&D and M&A, but
yeah,
when they start pulling back on R&D, I get really worried.
Well, it's don't forget, partner contributions. So that's who went in halvesies on the fab? Was it Blackwater? Was that their name?
Yeah, I think it's Blackwater.
No. Or BlackRock, sorry.
Yeah.
So this is full year. So it's not saying things like inventories and stuff.
No.
Okay, let's.
That might be on one of the other.
Yeah, let me go back to. The other numbers. Okay, let's zoom in on this. In the second quarter, the company generated 2.3 billion cash from operations and paid dividends of half a billion. Tax rate was 17.5%, because that doesn't mean much. Business unit summary. Yeah, so between products and foundry, different. Altera was previously included in DCAI segment. As a result of these changes, the company modified its segment reporting in Q1. Yeah, so Altera is down 57% year on year. Let's go through other highlights. Yeah.
So looking at the financial results at PDF, a lot of it's covered again, but there is one little interesting note in the execution milestones. On track to launch Gaudi 3 AI accelerators in Q3. It's the infographic, on that other page.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Again, they've changed
Q3
this every year.
For Gaudi 3. I was expecting Q4 for its launch, but Q3, that's a nice move forward.
Okay. Yeah, I can't search for Gaudi. I can't search for Gaudi 3 because it has registered trademark next to Gaudi. Great. Yeah, well, they announced pricing of those chips as well. So.
Yeah.
It's I actually want to create my graphs now, which is fun. I actually have the Intel my spreadsheet up. So let's. I bet you people won't be able to see it, but
no.
I mean, let me see if I can share my screen to make the pretty graphs. Yeah, you can all see that. Loads of numbers. This is what I do to make graphs.
Excel spreadsheets.
We're all friends here, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see if we can actually get proper numbers. They don't have the revenue down to the millions, do they?
I don't believe so. No.
Oh, yes, they do. It's like page 8 of the earnings release. Okay. So they had predicted 13 billion for Q2, but it's actually 12,833. Gap gross margins. That was exactly 35. Yeah, the guy did 40.2, and it was actually 35.8. 0.8. M&A R&D 5.6. Did they mention the employee count this time?
I don't believe so.
They might be in the 10K, 10Q, or whatever they ship. It's usually they. Oh yeah, here we go. Employee numbers. Oh, that's weird. I'm looking at my numbers for the last few quarters, and they say from when they announced it. I think they've changed. Oh, okay. This is sneaky. So you saw that graph where I had all the employee
numbers. I can't
numbers.
actually see what you're looking at.
No. It's all right. I'm just talking right now. You remember the graph I had with all the employees? This one.
Yes.
Right. This is like as reported. What they've done now is they've gone back and changed these numbers to not include the memory business.
Oh, that's
you know what I mean? Yeah. So right now they're saying 125.3 total. Well, they're saying 116.5 for Intel, but I had 131 for last quarter. So let's put that in there. I'm just going to fill out these graphs because I want to show people how they're doing. Let me get exact numbers. CCG was 7.4 billion. Excuse me, data center AI was 3.045 billion. Then we have network and edge on 1.344 billion. Mobileye, let me just get this right, was on 0.44. I still have numbers for the old IFS. Altera is 0.361 billion. Foundry is 4.32 billion. And then we have a small amount of other revenue, bringing us up to that much. Okay. And now we get to do the thing that we all love in Excel, is try and make all the graphs work. And and what was the predicted revenue? 13 billion.
13 predicted for next quarter.
Yeah, with a gap margin of 34.5. Okay. Yep. So here we go. This is what this graph looks like. Can you see that on the stream? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so ignore the fact that this is green. This one should be green. Let me see if I can make that green. And this one should be blue. Okay.
It's all green. It's all green, baby.
No, just select the one, damn it.
So
Yes.
Noy makes a point that I've been sort of, I hesitate to use the word harping on about, but talking about, and that is, why would anyone invest in software for Gaudi 3? Because the roadmap ends at Gaudi 3. Now, Intel has said that any programs that are built for Gaudi 2 and Gaudi 3 will be forward compatible with Falcon Shores. However, Intel has, I hesitate to use the word broken, but has said X about software in the past. Look at XESS, for an example, and it just never happened. XESS was supposed to go open source. It's still closed for all intents and purposes. So a lot of people are sort of wary about trusting Intel on that, at least until it's shown that that is in fact the case.
Well, okay, so I think from my perspective, the best way to put this is that there are two swim lanes, right? Either you use established frameworks like PyTorch, TensorFlow, Paddle Cafe, whatever, Onyx, and there are the low-level, Gaudi, Synapse software suites. If you use the PyTorch, if you have a framework like PyTorch, like Onyx, your software will work straight away. The only thing that changes is the compiler underneath. That doesn't change. There's no adjustment in the code whatsoever. If you are using that lower level Gaudi Synapse software, then Intel will hold your hand through the conversion procedure, and they've already got that in place. So any customer that wants to go down that route can. They expect most deployments, however, to be higher level frameworks. And it's only specific key customers that they're already engaging with are using that low level software, and they're already putting the pins in place such that it can be converted to Falcon Shores when Falcon Shores is ready. So yeah, Falcon Shores is meant to just use one API like the GPUs. Yeah. The reason why Gaudi can't is that there are certain hooks in the front end that it doesn't have that one API needs, as in the front end of the chip.
Yeah, it's
a
very different type of chip to what one API is really
used to.
For.
Yeah, it's. Let's see if I can get the rest of these graphs in. It's all a very annoyingly manual process. I bet somebody out there knows how to.
Oh, I bet you there are I almost certainly there are people who are paid by companies just to automate this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
What am I missing there? Foundry? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I put in the Foundry data. Yeah, okay. 44. So, yeah, because Intel's changed its reporting structure twice since 21. That's why there's a bunch of different numbers. The only two numbers that are consistent are CCG and DCAI. But if you notice, we are like less than half of DCAI's biggest revenue quarters.
DCAI has had, like, Altera was pulled out of it.
True.
A couple other things were pulled out. Like, I think all of the graphics stuff is now in CCG.
Yeah.
Including data center stuff.
So I think Altera's biggest quarter when it was part of DCAI was only about 600 mil.
It's still 600 mil, right?
Yeah.
Like, can't shake a stick at that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what the groups look like going back to 2017. Yeah, this is my Mobileye graph. Let's put the new ones in here as well.
And for anyone who's saying, "Oh, Intel's going to go bankrupt," Intel's going to go bankrupt. I don't know if this is a hot take, and I don't think this is. Let's play the hypothetical that they do go bankrupt. 100% the U.S. government is going to step in and save the fabs, if nothing else.
Yeah.
For geostrategic reasons, right? So
it has to. Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah. So if you were to look at this graph, would you say Mobileye is still on the up? They had one bad quarter.
They had a bad quarter on the average. So if you look at to me, it's they've been slowly increasing, and they've sort of had a bit of a plateau as of late. And sort of the next quarters, we'll see, are they going to swing up, keep stable, or go down? That's personally what I see.
It's yeah. So for anyone who's thinking of doing a self-driving chip, look at Mobileye, and that's how hard it is. And they've been going for a while. And then this employees numbers, I'm gonna have to update it with the new data at some point because it's just gonna look weird. I've got that on a slightly different sheet. 2024 1.3. Okay. Let's do this. Yeah. Okay. So just to clarify here, Intel provides their employee numbers per quarter, and usually to the nearest 100. NVIDIA and AMD do it to once a year. AMD to the nearest 100. NVIDIA used to do it to the nearest 1. They've stopped doing that now, and it's now to the nearest 100. So I actually think we're due for an update from AMD. Actually, when was the last AMD number? Yeah, okay, next quarter. So that's where we are with the financials, I guess. It's the investor call will be starting in 15 minutes. We won't be tuning in. I'll write up the Q&A either later tonight or tomorrow. But yeah, numbers don't lie. That 35% though, it's not their lowest, but it's rough.
I don't like the trend. I mean, I just look at from where was it? What is that? Q3 2018 to now, half your gross margin.
Yeah.
It's not pretty.
I mean, they had the point is they want to return to the 50s, even though they were. But the thing is, back here, don't forget, in the 17s, the 18s, and 19s, they had no competition.
Yeah.
Right. This is what a competitive market does.
But was I would almost love the AMD gap GM mapped out.
I have that.
Oh, you do? Okay. I think the format might be a bit different, but yeah.
It is. Let me change windows here for a second. And again, I can't just change window. I have to deselect, then reselect. This is probably going to come out super rough on stream just because of streaming quality stuff. Does that look any better? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a lot more readable.
Yes. So, wait, was
Yeah.
no, it. No, okay. This is the newest graph. Sorry, it was loading on the wrong one.
Huh.
Let me go in. So they just had a quarter of 5.8 billion, which compared to Intel's 12 point whatever is less than half. But their margin is going up, and they're due for the recordist quarter they've predicted next year. So it's I've got this graph. You can go see all these graphs for AMD on more-more.com. I've already written all these numbers up. Let's what's the next graph worth looking at? Okay, revenue per business unit. AMD got 2.8 billion in their data center. That was their most recordist data center quarter ever. Client was up. Not the heyday times of pandemic chip rush. So in client, it's the desktop and notebook CPUs basically. Gaming in the toilet, and
What's funny is AMD didn't actually blame Radeon; they blamed consoles, which I found interesting.
Yeah, they said it was the start of the 5th year of consoles, which is a low point. So gaming includes Radeon and semi-custom. But the thing is, you look, compared to, say, a year ago, where they had almost 1.6 billion in revenue, consoles ain't $1 billion a quarter, right?
No.
So, yeah. And then embedded, they thought Q1 was going to be the worst quarter for embedded this year, and then slowly rise back up single digits percentage. Q2 was flat. Again, inventory digestion, what we covered before. But yeah, gaming.
So what I just noticed is AMD is about to cross the revenue for DCAI in their data center market.
What, Intel's DC?
Yeah. So AMD made 28,
34.
34. Intel's reporting 3 billion. That's insane.
So for AMD, they did say that this is the first quarter with $1 billion of Instinct MI300X revenue. So that's EPYC plus Instinct, whereas Intel's DCAI is mostly Xeon. So Intel's still outselling AMD on CPU revenue.
Oh, sure. But the fact that AMD's even 150 million off of Intel, imagine even 5 years ago with the launch of Rome, if you had said this, people would have laughed in your face.
Well, I mean, I can, because if we scale back out on this graph again, down here are the 2013 numbers. It's Intel. AMD made more revenue in Q2 this year than they made in 2017 total.
Yeah. And the data center division made more money in this one quarter than they did in Q3 of 2023, 2022. 2020. God, I cannot say numbers.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, just to point out here, APUs for AMD are in client. Amit says that there is some weird messaging with how exactly stuff is better. It's because you've got to ask yourself, are they talking about performance per watt, or density? PPA. Pick. Is it P? Is it P? Is it A? Is it PP? Is it PA? Is it AP? You can pick and choose based on that. But yeah, gaming revenue. Let me see if I can make this a bit nicer. Yeah, this is AMD's gaming revenue. just in case you were worried that it's going down.
You mean up?
But yeah, and this one, let me move this to a new chart as well. Of course, Excel, you don't want to do anything.
Yeah. Excel being useful? No, never.
Yeah. So that's data center is 48.5% of AMD's revenue. Huh.
And people wonder why Radeon.
Yeah.
I have thoughts, but I'll leave that for another episode.
Intel is down 5% still, 5.5.
No, market closed. Aftermarket, they're down 17.5% after hours.
Is that $35 a share, roughly?
25. Oh, did my live stream freeze?
Yeah, it's for your camera.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah, they're at just under $24 a share.
Oh jeez, and what's their yearly high was 50.50 at Christmas. Their 5-year high was 68.74 in January 2020. Yeah. So their all-time high was 70.56 in 2000.
And at that time, that would have been a lot more, like in terms of the actual value.
So the worst since then is it 1241 in 2009?
Yeah.
So so not only are they cutting jobs, confirmed now, 15%, they're also missed expectations, and next quarter is rough. Yeah. And with that, we would have a break, but we've got to talk about Ampere One.
Yeah. One last thing about Intel. Did you see the class action that was filed for 13th and 14th gen? Yeah, there was a class action filed.
I saw people talking about there potentially being a filing.
No, let me see if I can grab it.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Check.
Yeah. Potential legal eagles target. A law firm is investigating whether class action lawsuit investigation begins.
Yeah, looked into my apologies. I got that wrong.
So a law firm is looking to start a class action. So they're looking to talk to people who have affected processes. During AMD's financial call, because we saw that Ryzen's 9000 series is being delayed a week or 2 weeks because of a typo on the packaging. I said it was as a joke, but I was semi-serious, and I was right again. Proved damn right.
No. You did say it's a joke. You had your crystal ball. Your crystal ball was all nicely set up for you.
I remember talking about it with Wen. I'm like, it just sounds like a typo. You can't fix it in 2 weeks if it's like something more fundamental. But it's anyway. Whatever. I did ask AMD whether that was going to be material to their financial in Q3, and they said no.
Yeah.
So the fact that there's 1 or 2 weeks less of sales and the recall and the retest and the packaging, they said the cost of that is negligible to their bottom line. So, yeah. Mo asks, or Mo E asks, did they also delay reviews? You would have to have samples to do reviews.
Mm.
So,
Well, I do have a Z5 sample.
me too. Zen
Yeah,
5.
yeah.
Yeah. I just need Lunar Lake to complete the trifecta.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so some people are saying that the image that was floating around on Twitter was a Photoshop. No, the person who actually did the laser engraving really did screw up a bit. And the person, it's outsourced. You might wonder how do they not catch a typo?
Yeah.
Do I have to bring up Megatrans?
Megatrans. Yeah.
Just a detour, because I need to show this. I need to show this because people don't believe me when I tell them. Okay.
Yeah.
This is Serve the Home. This is our friend Patrick Kennedy's website, and go subscribe to his YouTube channel as well. Dude, this should not be an a Dell Switch or HP supercomputer. It's an A-Speed IPMI Mega Rack, brought to you by American Megatrans.
And it should be Megatrends with an E, not an A there.
And this is in hardware that is meant to be fully
It's
US
in supercomputers.
secure supply chain.
Yeah.
Right. And as Patrick says, it'd be like buying a Dell notebook and getting Microsoft Windows on it. Right. So Patrick spotted this in a Switch, went through the whole crap about language barriers and OEMs and AMI. That's AMI is the one that has the Megatrans brand. He did a video on it. Go watch it.
So Joshua 89. Yeah, MLID, not a reliable source. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
Don't take anything he says with any level of seriousness.
There's a reason why whenever somebody posts a link in our Discord, that link gets moved to leaks rumors, and everybody just puts clown emoji
Yeah.
on it. So Patrick here, he went through. He actually went back through some of the switches he still had and found this sticker on a lot of them. It was only because actually it was somebody in one of his videos that pointed out it didn't say Megatrends. And it turns out this sticker has been on hardware for years. And when pushed, they said, well, we've already printed like 1 million stickers, so we're not going to buy new ones anytime soon. And like, do you not care that it's got the right brand on the hardware? Yeah, Windows. There you go.
Yep. Windows.
To be honest, Patrick should just go around trade shows with Megatrans.
It should be the Intel Care R5.
Yeah. Yeah, he found it in a bunch of hardware. Anyway, that's Megatrans. So yeah, typos happen. Yeah. And you're wondering why didn't people catch it? Because it's probably 1 or 2 people doing this. They just send it off. They may not even know the SKU stack properly, right? You go into any factory and ask if the employee on the factory floor knows anything about what they're manufacturing from a marketing perspective or a product perspective or from a skewing perspective. Nobody has a clue. Like the time I went round a factory and they showed us a product because, oh, look, this is a new thing. But the product was being tested in conjunction with something they hadn't announced. But the people on the floor thought it had been because they'd been using it for a year. Yeah, it's a good thing I was the first person to see it, and it was a client, so they removed it. But yeah, it is what it is. So yeah, let's we're coming up to the hour. It's yes, I know some people have asked for timestamps for our previous videos. I really should make a note down, really, of when we're saying stuff. But
yeah, well,
so
I think it's
we'll do that post. We'll do that in post. Fix it in post. Everything's fixed.
it all can be fixed in post. But yeah, I think this is a good point to transition over to Ampere. Yeah.
I have no idea why those banners are massive. Excuse me. Let's see if I can
I
edit
like big
this.
banners, and I cannot lie.
Something like that. Okay, here we go. Deep dive. Let's have it scrolling. So Ampere Computing are we describe them as the only merchant silicon, ARM-based merchant silicon provider for data center and enterprise. They make a CPU built on ARM that companies can go and buy.
Mm-hmm.
For the data center. Nobody else does that. Amazon has its own ARM chip that it doesn't sell. Google now has its own ARM chip that it doesn't sell. Microsoft has its own ARM chip that it doesn't sell.
So Amazon does sell their chips, but only to Microtech and only 2 generations old stuff.
Okay. Yeah. So,
but that's like weird niche stuff. Not, yeah.
So Ampere has had Ampere Ultra in the market. So Ampere Ultra, ALTRA, in the market for 4 years now. Something like that. 3 or 4 years.
Something like that, yeah. And then there's the Max follow-up the year after they launched that.
Yeah, and that uses the Mystique architecture. AmpereOne, they spoke about it 2 years ago, and technically it's been in the market for at least a year now. But they've never done a deep dive. It's never been generally available. And that's because Ampere is very tightly coupled with Oracle in more ways than one.
Yeah, I would argue that Ampere One is, because this is a cloud processor.
Yeah.
If it's not GA on a cloud, to me it hasn't properly come to market yet. I know that there's internal workloads, like I understand that, but
you mean as an instance available?
Yeah,
that you can get.
It's not on Google, and I don't think it's on Oracle Cloud yet. I haven't checked Oracle in about a month, so I might be wrong. But
no, it's Ampere also, because it's Oracle, these processors are designed to be good at databases, and you'll see a bunch of benchmarks that are pretty much all database based throughout this slide deck. And so that's not necessarily instancy type of workloads, the sort of micro instances that typically these processors are geared towards. That being said, Google's a lot of Google's infrastructure, like YouTube, is now all ARM native. A lot of their BigQuery is all ARM native. They've already converted everything to ARM. And a lot of their internal stuff is running on ARM. When it's not running on TPUs because it's not AI, but a lot of that stuff is. And they did that with Ampere. Now they have their own chip, so we'll see what goes on. But this is Ampere One. This is their new stuff. And this is a slide deck that George and I were shown earlier this week. And like I say, the embargo was yesterday. Neither of us have content on it yet because they gave us like 24 hours and we've had other stuff that needed to be done.
Yeah.
These are the people who presented to us. Jeff is the guy who gets on stage and does all the presentations. If you ever see an Ampere presentation, Attic is the CTO. He's basically in charge of the technology. And then Aaron spoke about how they're integrating, with customers and developing. He also spoke a bit to the SoC side as well. Yeah. There we go. SoC architecture, performance, then we had a Q&A. The first few slides are pitching Ampere's marketing prop. And their prop has always been data centers have fixed power and fixed capacity. How do you get more compute? Well, you have to work within those bounds. So that's what they do. That's why they call it a cloud native. If you've got a data center who tops out at 500 kilowatts, how many CPUs are you going to get in there? And so their whole thing is, if your limit's 350 watts per CPU and 2 CPUs per 1U, you want as much performance per rack, per socket as you can. And so that's their argument. They're saying not, all the new AI stuff that's coming, no data center is geared for it. No data center is geared for an NVL 70 to 120 kilowatt per rack Blackwell system. They're building new just to support those. However, most of the market is running older systems. What's the point in having a data center that can hold 100 racks if you can overload the power grid with just 2?
Yeah.
So that's their argument. And the whole point is you have more chips, more capacity for the same power. And yeah, it's one of their arguments for this slide is that modern architectures are bloaty, and everybody is working to older metrics: performance per core, performance per socket, performance per watt. For them, they want to speak about performance per rack. I think we lost your camera, George.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. AI compute integration, because you got to mention AI, and then TCO, which is total cost of ownership, which is the from installation to decommissioning cost of that system is TCO. It depends how long you keep your system for, though, as well. And yeah, they're synthetic results. They're saying that in one rack in SpecInt, they can get 34% higher than AMD's Genoa, and almost double an Intel system with their 192 core chip running at 3.2 gigahertz. There is a SKU stack in here, which will go to that.
Now,
yeah. So Don is saying, how is the power grid going to keep up with all this AI power demand? Ampere's argument is if power demand is flat, then you need more performance in that flat power, and that's what we're providing. So, yeah. And Luther says the AI hypotheca can power it. Should by a large margin.
Whatever a new energy system is announced, it's that meme of, is it steam? No, it's this. Are you sure about that? Okay, yes, it's steam. It's always steam and hot air.
Yeah, yeah. When people say Steam survey, they now mean something else. But yeah, this is some of their benchmarking slides. And containerized web services, databases, they're actually adding in costs this time. This guy is going too forward. Yeah, power, cost, rack space. The whole point of some of these being gray just basically means underutilized in these web services. So they're saying they've got a processor that can be fully utilized by this software, because utilization rates are also a thing. Let's move on to the next slide. And here are all the systems, the OEM partners who are going to be coming out with AmpereOne. So Supermicro, as you might expect, and Gigabyte. Gigabyte's been an OEM partner for anybody with custom or ARM silicon for a while.
If you have silicon, Gigabyte will make you a server, or really a QCT and a Quantio will make you a server.
Yeah, I think Gigabyte's revenue is now mostly server these days. It's the one that they put more effort into, rather than motherboards and GPUs. Yeah. Given you've seen Supermicro's stuff as their share price has gone up and up and up as well.
Yeah. What I will say is really interesting here is the lack of the big three: HP, Dell, Lenovo.
So
It's
historically, Ampere hasn't gone with those, just because
HP has adopted HP, Lenovo. I'm not positive about Dell. Have Ampere servers.
Yeah,
They
but they buy
weren't
them,
necessarily the first off.
but they buy them from Supermicro.
No, I don't think so.
So
I don't think.
I'm sure that's how it's done. Yeah, they don't do the NRE to go build it themselves unless they actually want to go deploy 1 million.
Well,
Anyway, yeah, IEIT and BYD, the car company, with their Reach platform for China. Slide. Okay, so this is the roadmap. This is some of this is new. So at the bottom we have Ampere Ultra. This is the stuff that's already out. 80 cores, 120 cores. That's Ultra Max. They're supporting that with long life cycle, which is, I think, a little bit weird, but whatevs. Through to 2030. AmpereOne is this top line. And this is a chip we've mostly been focused on, that we've known about, and it's 192 cores. 5 nanometer, it's chiplets. We'll get into that in a second as well. 8 channels of DDR5. They have a new platform with 12 channels coming later this year. They call AmpereOne M.
mm-hmm.
And then a 256 cores with 3 nanometer with 12 channels called AmpereOne MX. Excuse me. And because they're using chiplets, they don't have to worry about, big silicon on 3 nanometer. We'll get to that as well. There's also a space here. We'll get to that. The space here is fun.
I wonder if that's foreshadowing for the next slide.
Yeah.
Here we go.
So the next step in that roadmap is what they're calling AmpereOne Aurora. So AOA. This is a 256 core using AmpereOne. 512. Based on 3 nanometer, I think.
Yes.
But air cooled as well. It's got it's
air cool a lot of power. It depends on what they mean by air cool.
It's excuse me, it's gone 10:15 here. So I'm yawning, but AmpereOne custom interconnect, custom SerDes, custom IP, and it's going to interconnect with HBM. And again,
they didn't say that.
It says here in this slide.
Well, no, it says high bandwidth memory, but it's not. They don't say HBM specifically. They just say high bandwidth memory, whatever that means.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say it could be, say, the 12
channels
of
DDR.
12 channels of DDR, but it's the MR DIMM, so it's really 24 channels at like 8800, so it's like a terabyte.
Or it could be CXL.
It is possibly, but I think that would be too slow.
But they are also going to integrate some AI silicon inside, and we'll get to that. So let's go into the core and the architecture and the SoC for AmpereOne. Not Aurora, just AmpereOne. And this is the processor at a glance, and hopefully it's coming through fine for those of you watching at high resolution. But 192 cores, with each core separated into 4 core clusters. Inside a 4-core cluster, each core has its own separate L2, but each of the 4 cores share one access point on the network. These run in the highest frequency SKUs. These will run at up to 3.7 gigahertz and are ARM v8.6 plus. Do we ever figure out what the plus meant? It's some features from v8.8, I think.
8.7 and onwards. They did this with their previous generation, where it was like ARM 8.2 plus because they added a few things, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
it's stuff that's important for the cloud, but not the full 8.7 spec.
Yeah.
Yeah, fully connected mesh with a distributed coherence engine. We'll get into that in a second. Some system level cache, which is not quite an L3, but
Think of it more like Infinity Cache on AMD GPUs. It's more a memory buffer than
mhm.
an L3.
Yeah,
It's complicated.
EDRAM. No, I won't go. It has some legacy baggage. Built on TSMC 5 nanometer. So this centralized core is just one chip. The computer's all on one die. The DDR and the PCIe are on separate dies. That's how they're implementing the chiplet. If you're familiar with Graviton 4 does the same thing.
The opposite of what AMD does, essentially. AMD does chiplet compute and decentralized I/O. This is centralized compute, chiplet I/O.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it. That's a really good way of putting it. 8 channels of DDR5 at 2 DIMMs per channel. So 4 terabyte socket. That's you're using 512 gig DIMMs. 128 lanes of PCIe. And SBSA level 5, which is like the unified software thing for ARM. Your aircon just came through really loud.
Oh, it's because I muted. I muted and then I unmuted because I started coughing.
Yeah. Okay.
The
reason I think it's fine.
Okay.
The only reason why we've got fans and stuff on is because it is baking where we are, where both of us are right now. It does have AI features, so the cores do support FP16 and bfloat 16. They also do support some Int8. We'll get into that in a second. But then we have, virtualization, security, RAS. They also have some performance optimization features we'll get into in a bit. It's they don't talk about the networking, the interconnect too much because they're not using ARM's own; they're using a custom one.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the most interesting things is that they've moved off of the ARM mesh and onto their own.
ARM's mesh does have some scaling things, as in you can only have so many stations, and so you have to put cores behind a station. But then again, that's kind of what they're doing here with 4 cores per cluster.
Yeah. To me, this is now like they sort of went whole hog with this. They went full custom. They aren't using picking and choosing as far as I can tell.
The only thing they took from ARM was the architecture, the microarchitecture, and everything else. Yeah. So the core overview. It's an interesting core, and I know we have a bunch of comments about it. I should preface this by saying, because Ampere Computing have been talking about this chip for a while, and because we've been banging on about, well, it's a custom core, that's pretty amazing. Tell us about it. How does it perform? They've been so coy for so long. We were expecting something amazing. Or at least we were expecting significant innovation. We'll get into why some of that is slightly true, but mostly not.
Yeah.
So I think just like last time, George, do you want to take us through the core? I mean, I've done a lot of talking at this point.
Unfortunately, I am running out of coffee, so the voice lubricant. But
I have beer or cider.
So to start off, we start at the branch predictor. This is what very important part of the CPU. This is what basically tells this this helps direct the CPU in which way to go with code. So let's say you have an if and event statement. The branch predictor helps basically decides is the code you're going to go down the if statement or the then statement. So this helps with keeping code in the back end filled and just keeping everything moving forward. They say it's a state-of-the-art branch predictor. Well, as I point out twice now, we have a Zen 5 system and we've been testing it. And this is my own sort of editorial hypothesis opinion here. I doubt, based on what's shown here, AmpereOne's branch predictor is going to match Zen 5's. Just
Okay,
that might be a hot take, and that might be a bit too.
So, given that we assume this core was being shipped to partners over a year ago,
Yeah.
right? How does it compare to, say, Zen 3?
I would say more Zen 4 if it's a year ago.
No, I'm saying, but how does it compare?
So it's a bit different. They're both caged predictors, and they both have dedicated indirect predictors. As for the BTB, if that is a single cycle BTB, that is better than Zen 3. Zen 3 has a 1K 0 cycle BTB and then a 3 cycle 6,656 entry L2 BTB. And that's 3 cycles. If this is in fact a 1 cycle BTB, then
that sounds pretty.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And yeah, the 10 cycle branch mispredicts. That's a little bit lower than what most modern cores do. Most modern cores are like 12 to 15, aren't they?
So Zen 3 and Zen 4 are anywhere from 12 to 18 cycles, with the common case being 13 cycles for branch misprediction.
And Zen 5 went +1 on that.
Yes, I haven't quite had the opportunity to test that yet, so don't quite know definitive numbers, but that's probably likely for Zen 5. This is more in line with sort of off-the-shelf ARM cores. I believe N1, which is what Altera was using, is 11 cycles. So compared to that, this is a decrease of 1 cycle. And then moving on to the fetch queue and the L1 cache, it can deliver. So the fetch is 32 bytes per cycle, which is nice, but that only really feeds into that 32 entry instruction fetch queue. As you see, they can only decode 5 instructions, which then breaks down into 4 microops, or fuse into 4 microops. But one of my biggest reservations about this core is that L1 instruction cache size.
16K
is tiny.
So not most modern cores have at least 32. Or most modern high performance cores, or even the cloud cores from both Intel and AMD have a 32 or a 40. Is it 32 or 48?
So for Golden Cove, it's 32. With Granite Ridge, they're going to be moving to Granite Rapids. It's going to become 64K L1I.
So normally with caches, if you double them, you increase the hit rate by √2.
Yeah. Right.
So the fact that it's half means that
10%. No, you're right. You're right. It is √2. My bad.
Similar associativity and all that. So say you go from a 16 kilobyte to a 32 kilobyte, you increase your hit rate by 41%.
Yeah.
It's a rule of thumb. It's not exact, but it's a good way to think about it. So, but the SRAM to enable this so close inside the core, inside the compute, is expensive. That's why they're not 10 megabytes each or whatever.
Yeah.
So
but 16K does seem very, very thin. And
we'll have to
I-
see exactly the reasons why when we get a chance to test, I think.
Yeah. So Chris Jackson brings up a point. The workload is different. Would that have an effect? Yes, but consider that their previous chips had 64K of L1I, as well as competitors' chips having 32K or even 64K now.
Yeah,
So
it's well, it's we'll get into it, and they will talk about being able to stream instructions from the L2. That's why the L1 is so small, because in reality, a database query, for example, will run through that cache quite quickly, so it just ends up being streamed from L2, and you take an initial latency hit for that, but also the instruction bandwidth as well. We'll get into that. The decoder, it's a 4 wide decoder with the capability of doing 5 with a fuse. Zen 3 and Zen 4 were both 4 wide. Was it Tiger Lake was Intel's last 4 wide, or
yeah, Sunny Cove. So it'd be Ice Lake.
yeah, yeah. So they went from 4 to 6, and now they're what, 8 wide on Intel.
Yeah.
Zen 5 is now 2 4 wide decoders.
Mm-hmm.
So
though all those x86 CPUs had an op cache, which assisted with the front end. This doesn't have that, so you're solely relying on the decode path.
What about ARM's X925?
That is let me look it up. It's either 8 or 10 decode. I think it might be
8. It's yeah. I have my notes somewhere. This is something I should have checked up beforehand. Because it's a 10 wide decode and dispatch, which sounds like 10 wide dispatch, not 10 wide decode. Yeah, they don't mention the decode width.
Let me see. Yeah, I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, they kind of hit that.
10 wide decode. It's possible.
Yeah, no.
But yeah.
But anyway,
Point is, this is much narrower.
Yeah. Well, so let's continue. Execution. Execution resources feel a little light.
So they have 4 ALUs. And when I say 4 ALUs, I mean 4 sort of simple ALUs that can do single cycle. So like adds, simple shuffles, simple shifts, excuse me. But they only have 1 multi-cycle. So that would be your int moles, your int divs, stuff like that.
It's because they assume most of these workloads, again, will be database related. So you're iterating through, addresses in the database sort of thing. So lots of integer math, lots of memory accesses. But they are talking about AI on this as well for the floating point side.
Which, personally, I find questionable. They only have 2 128-bit pipes on their load, so that's not a lot of math per cycle.
So we kind of spoke about this after we got briefed together.
Yeah.
My argument was, well, okay, they have 2 128-bit pipes, but they have 192 cores, and you need to keep those cores fed, and they have to have a maximum power limit for the processor. If you put in more pipes or deeper pipes, you're either going to blow your power budget or you won't be able to feed them.
Yes.
But maybe having a fewer cores with deeper pipes is more power efficient anyway.
Yeah.
So that's it. It's a trade-off that part of me is thinking, at a very naive view that let's shoehorn AI into this, but they do have bfloat 16 support.
So that's standard Neon, like.
Oh, Neon has bfloat 16 in it now.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's. And then sort of another thing. So they say 2 loads and 2 store pipes, which is good. That's nice. Again, a bit thinner than other cores, but in terms of total amount of memory operands per cycle, that's on par. But in terms of the vector side, you can do 2 128-bit loads per cycle, but you can only do 1 128-bit store per cycle, which is a bit rough.
I mean, normally a general rule for generic code is 3 loads to 1 store. If you're iterating through a database, checking stuff, you're not storing anything really. But the minute you do start, needs store. It's. I do have to bring this up. BMurph24 says feed the beast. The best.
Yeah.
Not typo, but misspeak on this was from AMD's Zen 5 Tech Day, where CTO Mark Papermaster said "feed the best."
Yeah.
And I called him afterwards, and I said that should have been the slogan: "Feed the beast?" ? Feed the best! ! Yeah, we'll see. And then the L1 data cache. So this is 64 kilobyte cache with a 2 megabyte private L2. This is where you're saying with the 2 reads and 1 write per cycle.
Yeah.
For 4 cycle load to use is pretty standard across the industry. Best case. They said their design is meant to help alleviate some of the future potential security issues with things like memory tagging and CVE protections. It was pointing out that's not necessarily new. Otto's remembers Joe Macri saying Intel's E-cores were economy cores, not efficiency cores.
Ian and I were just barreled over laughing at that. But there is one last thing here that's interesting yet worrying. They say it's a 64K 4-way right through L1 data cache. So that
When's
means
last time we saw a right through bulldozer. And now, so just explain what a right through cache is.
Basically, it is exactly what it sounds like. It writes through the cache. So you don't write. If you go to store something, you don't actually write to the L1. You write through to the L2.
So I was going to explain it a little bit differently.
Okay.
So you write to the L1 and the L2 simultaneously, but in an inclusive cache, your L2 will contain your L1. You don't need an inclusive cache if you have a write-through. The write-through means the L2 doesn't need to keep track of what's happening in the L1 and essentially make sure it keeps a full copy of everything that's in the L1 just in case it's needed. But what a write-through does is it provides a very similar mechanism that basically goes from an inclusive to an exclusive cache as things get kicked out anyway. It's not a fully inclusive cache. It's a way to get around that, but there is additional. There's a little bit of latency overhead, isn't there?
Actually, it's bandwidth. So the way that Bulldozer solved this was by having a write combined buffer. Now, you actually see this still on modern Zen CPUs. But without that right combined, like that store combined buffer, you're going to see essentially L2 bandwidth for your L1 data cache for any writes.
Yeah.
Now, what that ends up becoming, like how much of a penalty that is for Ampere, don't know.
We don't know until we can test again. It's the nature of these beasts. They tell us enough to whet our appetite, but not enough to tell us how it's exactly working. So the one thing that I think surprised me in this core a lot more than anything else is the memory management. I mean, they have TLBs, standard, L1 and L2s. But it's this 8 simultaneous page walks for instructions and data each. So 16 page walkers total. Normally a chip, at least modern chip, will have like 4 or 6. So to have 8 each for both instructions and data is immense, which means that they expect this chip to be chugging through serious amounts of data, which again, database search is all about having multi-terabyte databases. So you have to build for that.
I remember something about 12. It might have been Redwood Cove with, I think, 12 page walkers. Maybe I'm misremembering.
It's one of these things that's actually quite hard to find when you Google it. Normally they don't talk about page walkers when they also want to talk about database benchmarks. I find that.
Okay. Maybe I'm misremembering.
But also, multi-tenant cloud systems. If you've got multiple tenants with large databases as well, you need it. The L2.
So chunky, nice and big, low latency. That's also very nice.
So just to compare, this is a 2 meg, 8-way, 11 cycle. Yes. Normally, I think a lot of the modern cores we see, are around the 1-2 meg these days. Usually 12 or 16 way, if I remember correctly. But that means that their cycle low to use is around 13.
So Raptor Cove. Now, granted, very different clocking chip. So you expect that much higher load latency. 2 meg, I believe it's 16-way L2. I think it's 17 cycles. It's either 16 or 17 cycles.
Yeah.
That's designed to go up to 6+ gigahertz. So this is only doing 3.7, which is pretty impressive, actually, for a core like this.
Cycle versus frequency is always a trade-off as well. But going from 8-way to 16-way, the 16-way means that you're more likely to find a hit faster.
Yeah, but it does mean that you are checking more tags, so it can be more power intensive and potentially add latency.
And add die area as well.
Yeah.
So, though, to be honest, these things are getting pretty small these days. And the amount of transistors everybody has is a lot. And then it 164 byte line to L1 per cycle. Didn't you say this sounded a bit low?
It's phrased oddly. And it says reads and writes can be scheduled every cycle. I assume that means that they have a read bus and a write bus. So they're either dual or pseudo dual ported for their L2. But if they can do 64 bytes per cycle to each of the L1s, then that's actually pretty good. Though I kind of suspect that it's going to be 32 bytes to the L1I and then 32 bytes to the L1D. That sounds a bit more sort of fitting the rest of the resources of the chip. Again, we will have to test it to see. What is interesting is that it says tracks 48 outstanding requests to mesh. So that's your misaddress buffer is 48 for your L2. That's pretty in line with. It's a little bit small, but that's pretty in line with other cores.
It kind of speaks to some of what this slide says, the cloud native features. So adaptive traffic management. If you've got 192 cores, getting data in and data out is kind of a pain sometimes. So you've got to be able to route your data properly, and that takes power, that takes diarrhea. They're also doing a thing called memory tagging. So because this is for multi-client databases, even with within the same organization for internal workloads, all the memory is tagged. And so they have a system whereby if the data is mistagged or overwritten incorrectly, they'll adjust that. They also have QoS enforcement, which simply means that they'll adjust memory bandwidth and accesses from a particular core if you've got something that's more latency sensitive. I'm not saying standard, but companies know that these things need to be done. And we get some more details about the tagging here. It does take a little bit of memory to do it, but the idea is that it's all in line, so user doesn't have to do anything except enable it in the BIOS.
So Skunkworks, the decode unit is pretty ominous. It must be pretty wide. It doesn't look particularly wide. Like it looks like it's sort of what you guys sort of termed the 3+1 of
simple and complex.
That's sort of what this reads like. It can ingest 5 instructions, and if two of those can be fused into a single microarch, then it can pull it through one of the decoders at the same time, and then sort of spit that out as 4 microarchs to the back end.
Intel did 3+1s for many generations. So, adaptive traffic management. Covered this already, but this graph here, this loaded latency graph, is a graph I want to know. I want to understand how they did it. I think Andre did a couple like these back at an Antic during the day. The point is, as you load up a system, how much bandwidth do you still, what latency do you still get as you load up the bandwidth? And Ampere's whole thing, previous generation and this generation, is performance consistency. So none of this cliff edge type stuff with latency. It's going to look the same regardless of how much this chip is used. Really, I think we need to get hold of what Ampere is doing to do that graph. And have a unified
latency is never easy. It's really hard. I really do wonder what they're doing to create this graph. It's a very interesting data set.
It could be something like QoS, and it's giving the latency the higher priority.
If that's what it is, that's a bit
sneaky.
But
they would argue that's what would happen in reality. If you have a latency sensitive app, it would get the high priority. So we'll see.
In an ideal world, yes. In reality,
we'll see. And then memory and cache enforcement. It's pretty standardized stuff. Noisy neighbors, that sort of thing. So here we go into the chiplet side. This is what it looks like. I actually didn't bring up a picture because I've actually got a ton of pictures of this thing. You should look through this. I'll try and find a picture.
This is actually sort of what it looks like physically. So that left diagram is basically a stylized version of what the chip does look like. if you've ever seen Jeff hold up one of these chips, if you're wondering where those extra chips are under, it's under that big metal shim. That's where all those extra dies are under. I should have an image of me holding it at a tilt, and you can see those dies quite clearly.
It's hold on a
And-
second. I will. I've got it here. I think no, that's not gonna. It's my video streaming thing. Okay, here we go. Yeah. So that's what it looks like, and that looks like a pretty excessive shim. However, if you can just see under there, you got chiplet, 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 and yeah, I took this photo Computex 23, so over a year ago, and I asked, does this mean you can, swap in and out whether you want DRAM chips or PCIe chips or custom chips, and the AmpereOne goes, you might have an idea there. This is a 160 core at 3 gigahertz. You can tell. Engineering sample. Does it have a date code on it? Yeah, 22 week 45. So if anybody's wondering how long AmpereOne's been around, this engineering sample is from 2022 week 45.
So
okay.
November.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So that's this one. That's the one on the left. I just realized I'm moving my mouse on the screen, and you guys can't see it. But yeah, the one on the left. So 4 PCIe dies, 4 memory controller dies, custom interconnect. So they're using their own home-built SerDes connection, their own home-built protocol, and they're saying 2.8 terabytes per second cross-sectional in each direction. Which is insane.
And I just posted a picture of the image that I took during the Renee interview, and you can clearly see the chiplets under the shim.
Oh yeah, I'll try and get this picture.
Yeah. But again, to continue on the slide, they only have one compute chiplet so there's only one. Basically, take this compute chiplet and then transplant it over. So AmpereOne already has all the stuff available in order to allow for AmpereOne M.
There you go, chiplets. Woo! Yeah.
And and we can tell that the ones on the shorter side are the PCIe chiplets, and the one on the longer side are the memory chiplets, just because you aren't going to have enough space to put a third one there. So
it does mean that you have all the power pins in the middle of the chip, and all the data pins on the outside.
Yeah,
pretty much, because you don't need to put data. The data can go through any sort of memory buffer around the outside. So, and then so that's the SoC, that's the core. Let's briefly go through performance, because we are about to hit 2 hours. This is benchmarks from them we've seen before. Again, their target here isn't performance per core or performance per thread. It's performance per rack, or performance per chip, or performance per watt. So here they're saying with 192 cores, they can beat 96 cores. At just less just over half the power at more performance. And then this is in the middle is your standard Genoa chip, and on the right is the Cloud Bergamo chip. So really it's left from right. And as you can see, performance per watt here is their argument. 50% higher than Genoa, though in reality Genoa X is the competing platform. Sorry, Bergamo is the competing platform. How they get that spec in result, if you've ever run spec on a 192 core system, oh boy, it's fun. or 256 cores.
So
Like,
I've been actually
full
trying
Bergamo.
to run spec, but I can't figure it out. So I might need to ask for some help on that.
It's rough because also it's to do a little bit with timing as well. But yeah, they're saying that so MCF and GCC, for example, are the big memory tests, whereas your X264 is a big compute test sort of thing. And this is how they get the 702. It's an average of all of these basically. And this graph at the bottom is basically turning around and saying, regardless of power, our chip is designed to keep its frequency. So you have consistent performance. And then we get on to AI.
What I find funny is the two new technologies that I don't remember the name of that they introduced that sounded a lot like speed step and turbos.
Yeah, they announced that at their yearly update a couple months ago. I've got a video on it. So they're not talking about it this time because I think people got confused. So here's the 192 core at 2.6 gigahertz. Again, ResNet 50 is such a stupid benchmark, but whatever. We have Whisper, which is the text to or audio to text. Llama 3, which is a large language model. And again, it's all about performance and performance per watt. And they're saying that in a lot of these tests, the performance per watt is so much higher. Cloud native apps. So here's all the benchmark stuff. So this is the stuff that actually Ampere wants to sell it to. And here's a bunch of the tests. Again, showing performance per watt better than Genoa. The reason why they don't have Intel here is because they don't think Intel's competitive in this space at all. Sorry, that's against Bergamo. Yeah, they have Genoa.
So Genoa is the dotted line.
Yeah, and Bergamo is the solid lines.
The gray lines. It's a bit weird, but yeah.
Yeah. Time now to change strategy. Okay, so here's the SKU list. I haven't actually looked at this yet, so this is fun. This is real time.
So you can tell that the A144-26X SKU is the lowest bid silicon that they make. It's like bargain basement, like the worst bidding, because 332 watts for basically 50% more power than the 192 at the same clock speed.
Yeah. It's well you got to have the down bins. So and it's just like Intel or AMD, they have their efficiency optimized. Yeah. It's perhaps not as egregious as this, but you're paying a difference as well. And then they've got so the power in this case is the estimated power based on spec in.
Yeah,
which I think is actually
TDP.
No.
Yeah, so it's a bit.
In the briefing, I did ask them to update the slide to give a native TDP value, but they said,
Yeah.
But again, it's power across spec is a bit weird because the way spec issues workloads, or at least in our wrapper, is that it actually takes time to start up all the threads. So they don't all start up simultaneously sometimes. And so they all finish at different speeds based on, nearest neighbor congestion and thermal hotspots and whatever. So some cores will be cooler quicker than others. So that's why you get some variation in testing. If it was actually a real workload, like a database workload, I'd take that number, a bit more to heart. But I guess this showed it off better in what they wanted to do. That, to be honest, that 211 power, the 192 26X, that's probably your most efficient point.
That
or
cool. Actually the 160 28.
Yeah.
Or 2.8.
So that's the pricing. It's half the price of a Bergamo, top end Bergamo.
I always hem and haw about that because
Nobody pays those
majority-
prices.
well, not just that, the majority of what folks pay is not actually in the CPU. It's in the memory nowadays.
Yeah.
Right?
It's-
And then there's licensing costs, which are utterly insane anyway.
So I'll bring up Nimic here. Says their product names are much better than Qualcomm. I'd argue these are the best product names in the industry.
Yes, yeah, because they tell you how many cores and what's the clock speed. That's it.
Yep.
Like,
And the generation.
well, do they? All I say is Ampere One.
Well, no, because Ultra were M.
Mm-hmm.
Ultra Max were M as well because it was still the Mystique architecture.
No, Ultra was Q. It was Q.
Oh yeah.
It was
Okay.
Q, and then Max was M. This is A. Are we going to get B for the 3nm stuff?
To be honest, I thought this was going to be S for Siryn because this was given the code name Siryn. But yeah, but also the X on the end as well. You know, they could change that for generations if they really wanted, or that means it's overclockable. Yeah,
But
don't
yeah.
give me ideas. Best skewing in the industry by far. Give them an award for it.
Yeah.
So, I
And
think
then
the rest of
it's
this
just
deck is the end notes. Yeah. So
there is one end note I would like to call, two end notes I would like to call out. End note 205.
do you know? I don't see
205.
a number.
So up to.
Okay.
There we go.
205. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. The kernel versions here are all the same, which is very nice.
Mhm.
But if you scroll down to EndNote 405, they did some funky stuff here.
689. Yeah.
They have different
Sure.
kernels, and they did different. They have Bergamo with SMT enabled and Genoa with SMT disabled.
Usually they do that because they give they test with and without, and then give them the benefit of the doubt of which one performs better. I would argue they should give both results.
Yes.
You know,
At least, I understand if in your sort of Cliff Notes version you just give sort of the best as the benefit of the doubt, but in these sort of endnotes, put both sets of numbers just because this seems a bit. They've done a lot since the last series of numbers they showed.
Yeah,
they've done a lot better. So full credit to them, but this is show both results in these endnotes, please.
This is a rant I have, and it really kills me. There are two types of people in this industry, in this world. Ones who want 100% of everything to be relevant to them, no extraneous data.
Mm-hmm.
Then there are others who want 100% of what they're interested in, but don't mind the other 40% they're not, because they understand that somebody else might have that part of 40% be part of their 100%. And the amount of PR teams that give me the gumph and saying, no, we want everybody to understand 100% of it. And like, no. To be honest, I even had this with the reviews back at Anantech. This annoyed me so much. I would do 100 benchmark tests and multiple runs and automated suite. And they'll be like, well, I don't care about benchmarks 2, 6, 10, 15, and 18. Why are you doing them at all? I'm like, because other people want them.
Yeah.
Not just you.
Yeah. It's probably the nicest word you could use there.
multiple 4-letter, not safer family words. But it's just more data is better. Just because it's not relevant to you, why? Just be thankful you're getting data at all.
Yeah.
Numbnuts. Sorry. It really works me up because customer service is like that. It's two types of customer service. One who will actually listen to you and work towards an answer for your problem, and two, the customer service that will just repeat to you the rules and regulations and tell you to go figure it out yourself. really pisses me off.
Yeah.
Mentally, just that. So, yeah.
But yeah, that's Ampere. Do you want to do Q&A or do you want to end it here, like a 50-minute, like we did last time?
Unless anybody has some burning Q&A questions about this, it's. I'm glad they did it. There's some things in here that I think are significantly different enough in the market to validate their use. I do worry that the legs on this thing may not be enough, or the hope is that the design is scalable such that they can replace the compute chip with something a bit more. Either that, or we're just not understanding the workload as they see it, which is a reason. Neither of us have got 20 years experience in databases. Neither of us have extensive knowledge of Oracle in that way, whereas these people supposedly do. And if this is a chill, quote unquote, built for Oracle plus others, there must be something in Oracle's workload to make Oracle turn around and say, yes, this is a chip we need long term. So it's okay. Have you guys ever considered eating cheesy potatoes together? This is a funny thing. I'm going to hurt George's feelings by saying this. I don't like cheese.
Yeah.
It's not because I'm lactose intolerant. It's just because I'm not too keen on the texture, pretty much. I did actually last week order some halloumi with another dish, and it came with 4 pieces of squeaky burnt rubber, and one was nice. I ate the next 3 over the week, and I'm halloumied out for about a year now. I just
if there's ever a conference in Canada that we go to, we have to have on camera us eating poutine together.
It might not just be chips and gravy, and we also have to have a guest on, and that's why. For those of you who didn't see the first part of episode 1, it's the tech routine with potato and cheese, and gravy is going to be any guest we invite. So. Huge Vibe says, I'm Dutch. You also hurt my feelings. So I'm from a nation that eats cheese hand over fist. Do you know how many freaking types of cheese this nation has? Do you know how rough it is to go to a press event and say, I don't eat cheese? I also don't eat fish. Pretty much. So, yeah. Wensleydale, Gromit. The movie is made of cheese. Yeah. It's is it Aardman Ventures? All their stuff got burnt in a fire after one of the Wallace and Gromit movies, so they had to rebuild everything, at least. So it's I don't know. So we've just had Intel financials. AMD's were early in the week. We've got the Ampere One disclosures. I know we haven't done a deep dive yet into the value analysis of Intel's top-end cores. I'll have to double check the transcription of the analyst Q&A to see whether they actually mentioned it. I had a few questions saying, are they going to mention, the failures, a recall, or whatever? So we'll see. George and I, will be together in the Bay Area come end of August.
Yeah.
Have you got an invite to Innovation, Intel's Innovation in September yet?
I need to follow up on that.
Basically, if they're paying, you'll go.
So.
Or you got a conflict?
Well, no, I don't. Actually, I
do. It's my freaking birthday, and I have to go to a conference anyway.
Yeah. I was kind of hoping that I would get an invite to the Lunar Lake launch in Germany.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't get an invite. I am sad. I don't know if I should bug them about that.
Yeah, I think for the Germany event, they're not bringing in international people. It's yeah. So, yeah, I don't know how ready they're going to be because it feels quite early, but we'll see. Yeah, and then yeah, supercomputing. Last week we mentioned that we didn't have our press approval yet, and I think like a few hours later they came through.
Yes, yeah. So
Very much so. Yeah, it's yeah, we're so I still need to book hotels and flights, and that's not going to be cheap. I've actually been to Atlanta before.
I've driven through Atlanta. I've never stayed in Atlanta for any length of time.
Yeah, I think the first one after the pandemic was in Atlanta, and I missed it because I didn't expect many people to be there. Not a lot of people went there, at least not a lot of attendees, but a lot of the companies went. So apparently it was really nice because everybody could move. So we'll see. But yeah,
if Intel are scared to be big vibes or huge vibes, that's a bad issue.
It's I've said this for a while. It's who you know, not what you know. And I've been in this industry almost 15 years at this point, covering different parts, going to on ventures. While Chips and Cheese has been around, what, 4 years?
You've only 3.5.
3.5.
Yeah.
But in terms of actually covering the latest, that's only been a priority for, I guess, the last year or so, year and a bit. Yeah. So George is still making a lot of those connections that I've had for ages. So we'll see. People at Intel definitely know who he is now.
Yeah.
People at AMD definitely know who he is now. People at Nvidia don't talk to us.
Yeah.
No. Sorry, that's improving, at least on my side. It's for some reason Nvidia has this whole struggle. Do they consider me an analyst? Do they consider me an influencer? They have now put the hammer down and are considering me an influencer, which is not the side I wanted to be on. However, I do have access to all the analyst info, but not the analyst briefings. But they don't brief the influencers either, so I just get we briefed the press and analysts on this. Here's a recording, and I click through, and I don't get the recording. I just get a slide deck. It is what it is. I'd love to find my way up the business, but I've spoken to the most senior people involved, and they've just said go be an influencer.
So it appears, Nemec, it appears that potentially there was no issue. There was nothing brought up in the Intel Q&A about the chip problem.
Yeah, so far the call should be over now. Anyway.
Okay.
It's I'll go back and listen to it. Given that it's like gone 11 p.m., I'll probably listen to it tomorrow at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we'll call it there. A good 2 hours again. Thank you, George, for making time on this hottest of hottest days.
Thank you for making time, because I sort of the tech routine is sort of dictated around your schedule.
Yeah, I know. And next week I'm filming. I'm actually going up north to my undergraduate to film a video. That's going to be fun. Going back to my old university, which I've not been back to in almost 15 years at this point. Gonna go film a video up there about some of the stuff that they're doing. It's not AI. It's not PC. It's not. It's a different sort of science. It's a science education video, not a technology video. Yeah. That would be good. Going up there with Dom, my camera guy, my video editor. And then latter half of the week should be good. And I'm actually meeting Ampere Computing for dinner. So they just happen to be in town. So if you've got any questions for Ampere, put them in the video description, in the comments, and I'll see what I can ask. That should be fun. And then the week after that is vacation. So Good,
And
good.
with that, I think we can bring an end to this. So thank you all for watching.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Yeah.
we should have a show next week.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Chipsandcheese.com. Again, if you like George's stuff.
Morethanmore.com.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's ask about workload and ask for a benchmark. I'll try.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. See you guys in the next one.
Yep.